This is the Commercial Claims Show. This is the Claims Game Podcast, and we are in our new studio. Are we going to call it our studio, Anton? Should we call it our studio? This is it.
I like that. Yeah, claim it.
You should feel very special, Tyler.
I'm the first guest.
You were the first guest in our new studio.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel I'm honored.
Yeah.
Honored.
You should be. Yeah. I'm honored myself.
Wow.
Welcome to the Claims Game Podcast with Vince Perry. Get all the tips you need from insurance claim advocates and professionals and grow your public adjusting career to the next level. And now the commercial claims advocate, Vince Perry.
Welcome to the Claims Game Podcast here on the Commercial Claims Show. I am with my good friend here, my new friend, Tyler Graves. Tyler is the owner of Ready Stays. And we're going to do a little podcast here, and I'm pretty excited. Tyler, welcome.
Thank you, Vince. It's great to be here. It's a lovely facility, and the space is nice. I like the whole setup you have here, very professional, and I'm looking forward to talking to you today.
I am looking forward to it, too, because I think that what you do is very valuable for our industry. You know, because, and you're going to tell us what Ready Stays is, but, you know, additional living expenses. People need to move out. People can't live in a home sometimes. We do a lot of fires. And even if it's a small fire, the smoke and everything that goes on inside the house is just completely unlivable. Or else you end up sounding with like a throat like mine right now. But yeah, tell us a little bit about Ready Stays because I firmly believe in what you do.
Thank you. Well, we started in early 2018. We did start in Tampa. We're in the Tampa Bay area. And actually the company started really in supplying a demand where realtors, were interested in meeting with us and kind of going, hey, I have a client that's moving between homes. You know, oftentimes you have to sell your home to take the equity out to then put it into a new home if you're building it or buying a new home. And so they go, well, we need a place for a month or two or three while they're in that process. And so started working with, apartments, private owners, and before you know it, just had more requests, more demand. It sort of grew organically. This is a long story, kind of cutting it short.
We have all the time in the world.
Yeah, I mean, essentially it grew organically within the Tampa Bay area. I think at this point, we have about 85 to 90 1, 2, and 3 bedroom homes, apartments, townhomes just in this area. And those are all, midterm. We call it midterm, stays. These are typically months at a time. 1 month is a minimum to up to 6 months, sometimes even longer. So we were supplying a need and then it kind of grew organically from there, just online, our website, word of mouth. And then what's interesting is we sort of discovered all the markets and people that we could serve, which was very interesting. So insurance, I've probably done a few in the last 4 or 5 years, but only in the last year has it really become like a true niche of ours. We've just become very strong there, obviously locally, but as well as just really nationally. So we expanded. We grew from, I would say, the 85 that we have here to saying, hey, we're just in this area to actually we're national now. And we can work in all 50 states. We've done deals. You name a state, we have actually either an active deal there right now, or we've done one there in the past. And these are everything. These are from 1-bedroom apartments to, we've done things as big as 7 or 8 bedrooms, in a very large, farm.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we've fallen into it. That's a bit of a backstory.
And so you just started to fall into this just over the last year.
The insurance portion, yes. We had gotten requests here and there because it's, oftentimes people, they'll find housing on their own, right? They've had a fire or something.
That's what I was going to say is normally the insurance company, they're just like, go ahead, find a place, spend your money out of pocket.
Yeah.
And then we'll pay you back.
Yeah.
Because I told you last week when we met, it's an incurred expense. Mm-hmm. So that means they have to come out of pocket first. They have to prove that there's a lease agreement or an invoice for a hotel or whatever it is, and then they get reimbursed, which is kind of brutal, but.
Yeah, it is. And some people don't, cash flows can be different for different
cash flows after, it depends.
It does make it tricky. But yeah, I think that the biggest differentiator, someone might say, well, so you're like Airbnb. And we say, well, I guess in some sense we are in that most of our rentals are fully furnished. So they include all the utilities, cable, Wi-Fi, parking, kind of all inclusive. The biggest difference though is when you book an Airbnb or a VRBO or whatever it might be, you're stuck to that fixed booking period. So you say, I think we need about 2 months. I think we need about 3 months. Now, guess what? What happens if your home is ready earlier? Or what happens if, and this is quite common, you have to extend a month or a couple of weeks or even a few months, God forbid. Well, guess what? Hey, I got another booking behind you. You got to go.
All right.
And so with us, in almost every case, our housing is month to month, purely month to month. Oftentimes there's a minimum. So it might say, hey, the predicted damages is going to take about 3 months to finish. We have a minimum of 3 months, but we always offer that option to extend monthly, month to month with a 30-day notice to vacate.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That family is never, and again, unless they've given us their notice and we put somebody behind them, they're almost never going to be just like, sorry, you're on your own.
Right.
We all manage it with that 30-day notice.
It was perfect too. So, I mean, we've already started working together.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was a super smooth process.
Yeah. We try to get, at least get an option to somebody within 2 to 3 hours of a phone call.
Did you talk to her?
I did, Julie, yeah.
She's so sweet.
Yeah, she was very nice. I mean, it's so unfortunate because from what I understand, she bought her home last year. I think it was a new build.
No.
Okay.
No.
But
if you come with
I
me
think it was
later,
her first home.
it's her first home.
Yeah, and then
A cute little home in a nice little neighborhood. Zephyr Hills is a nice little area.
Yeah.
Older home, old electrical. It's always two things, man. It's either electrical or it's cookie. Every single freaking time, man. But yeah, thank God it was a smooth process because like you said, the problem with the claims process is you've got two things that you have to deal with. The actual claims process and then the rebuild process.
Right.
Which is going to take a long time as well.
Yeah.
So when I told her, I said, look, maybe you can find a place for 6 months. She looked at me just like, what? 6 months? I'm like, well, hopefully not 6 months, but you never know.
Right, well, because you were, based on the damages in your professional experience, you were seeing
There's
is
a
probably
lot.
going to be about 5 or 6 months.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big deal. And then the issue we have is the insurance company constantly underpaying, and I have to fight with the insurance company. So what we do with the fires normally is we just do sort of like a little bit of in between. So we do try to get an advance payment out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I think it's best to work with the client directly because
Yeah.
if you're waiting for the insurance company like we are, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But it's between at least getting some kind of payment and getting a contractor in there just to really start doing the work as soon as possible. So hopefully they can be done in 1 to 3 months, but sometimes it drags out even further.
Right. Yeah, and that's actually what we find a lot of the times. We'll get a request and it's like the adjuster's only approving, in this case it's the carrier's adjuster, right? They're only approving 2 months to start.
Right.
And I think that's primarily because they want to get the contractor in to really assess the damage. So they don't want to be making a minimum commitment of say 6 months when in reality it's probably going to be 9 months. Potentially, right? So, but again, that goes back to the value of the ability to extend, and almost always we can extend at the same rate. Obviously, there's some fluctuations, there's seasonality in certain markets, so we may have to adjust that. But it's always a known number prior to the adjuster's sign off.
Right.
And so our relationships with adjusters, be it carriers directly, public adjusters, are good. Feedback is always very positive.
Have you thought about that? Like even like working and networking with the insurance side?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and that's, I mean, listen,
not?
I think the opportunities are dripping off the walls from what we can do and how we manage it with our guest services team and the paperwork. And I mean, it's a very, it's a fast growing segment of our business.
Nice.
It's the feedback that we're getting. I mean, just a great example. We had a lady in Virginia Beach, the Norfolk area. And so she was...
You got a lot of military people out there.
Exactly, yeah. Although she wasn't part of military, she was kind of on a fixed, there was her limits were small. She was on Social Security. And so they needed to find a 2-bedroom. And we got something secured for her. We got her moved in within a week.
Oh, nice.
And I spoke with her last night. She had kind of an ancillary question related to the property. She moved in on Tuesday. And she said, I can't thank you enough, Tyler. Like I personally had helped her on this one and got her in there and everything. I said, I can't help you enough or thank you enough. This has been really a tough process. It was a fire. It's going to be at least 5 months. And she's like, it was just smooth. You set up the tour. It was really nice. And it's just with all the hecticness and craziness with dealing with the contractors. And I think her husband is I think he might be like have a medical condition or something. So it's just, there's a lot going on with her family.
Right.
And she just said this has been so, and I don't know, it's just stories like that when you talk with and work with people directly that make it worth it. So.
I think it's also good because like you said, sometimes you're going to be dealing with people who are handicapped. Sometimes you're going to be dealing with cat ladies. Sometimes you're going to be dealing with all kinds of different things, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's It's interesting. You do run into a lot of, especially if it's early on in the process, if the fire just happened, oftentimes there might be a relative or, somebody that was in the home that's injured. It might be in the hospital. We have some families we're working with right now in Jersey, and where that's the case. And it's unfortunate. But there's emotions involved. There's a lot of, I got to sign this now and I got to do that. And it's just, rather than saying, hey, buddy, you're on your own, insurance carrier will just reimburse you, to know that you can go to a company, hey, we're going to handle the criminal background check. We're going to get you in there. We're going to set up the furniture. We're going to get you. So I don't have to
do anything. Bring
my own this? No. So I don't have to set up my own utility? No. It's like just take it from 0 all the way to 100. We get you to the finish line. So,
what is one of the funkiest requests that you've had?
Oh, I had a family. It's funny, I was kind of mentally preparing for this. So I could probably go through a bit of a laundry list here, but back in January, we had a family in Washington State, and they were actually tremendous. They were very polite. This was in a town, I want to say, not too far outside of Tacoma. And it's a family of 10. So the request came in.
Whoa.
The family of 10. So we can work with Julie, individual, right? Simple apartment situation.
Sure, that's an easy one.
That's an easy one. Yeah, that was very easy.
And she's super nice.
She's very nice, which helps a lot.
Yes.
But this family was a family of 10. So I think what the story is that they had adopted kids that had basically gotten older, and so then they were adults. They were still living at home, and you adopt a couple of kids. You got kids as well. It was a family of 10. They needed a 5 or 6 bedroom house. It needs to be within 15. Most of our requests are within 15 minutes of the damaged residence.
Nice, that's a big one.
Huge. And obviously,
I don't remember you telling me that, but yeah, that's awesome.
It's sort of our
that's fantastic
criteria. We don't like to send options unless you're in a very remote town. We don't like to send options that are even a half hour away or 45 minutes.
Makes sense.
Because they want to go back, they want to see their home.
Well, that's why I told you about the RV guy. Remember?
Yeah, and I connect with him.
People like to be on the property. They want to be close to their home.
Yeah, and so that's oftentimes we'll send an option to somebody, and it's kind of an interesting town, or maybe like LA where it only says 5 miles, but it takes 30 minutes because you're leaving. Yeah. It's like you send them an option, and then they're like, no, that's too far. You're like, it's 5 miles.
Right.
So our team has to be very aware of like traffic patterns and like where are the school zones, where are there, crime. We have all these sort of maps and tools that we use. So when we do send you an option, it's, the likelihood of you turning it down is very unlikely, even if it's a town that we don't know or we've never worked in before. It's all these sort of tricks and tips and stuff that we apply. But going back to this family, long story short, that wasn't the end of it. It was 10 people, and it was 4 animals. It was, I want to say it was 2 or 3 cats.
Was it like 8 kids, or was there a grandma and a?
So
grandpa?
it was a.
Because if it was my house, there'd be grandparents in there, there'd be kids, there'd be all of it.
Well, so some claims there certainly are relatives, right?
Yeah.
There's like, family members that are also there. But in this case, I think it was like mostly kids. It was like mostly just kids that were adults and then their kids. And it was a family of 10 with like 4 or 5 pets.
Wow.
Very.
It's like my Cuban family.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's true. Very intimidating.
Or a Jamaican or a island family, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and that's true, right? So a lot of families like that, they tend to be together, right, in the home.
Yes,
so
for sure. Yes.
Get a family in La Puente, California. It was a Hispanic family. I didn't ask where they were from, but it was 8 people, 4 adults, and this was the sister and this was the cousin, and they were coming from a 3 or 4 bedroom. They needed the 4 anyway. So it's just it's a lot of that kind of situation where if they're going to stay in a hotel, they're living between 1 or 2 different suites. They're usually not very comfortable. They can't do their own laundry, or they're going down the hall or to a laundromat, and they don't really have a kitchen. And so I always tell people we're in the business of getting people out of hotels, because ultimately, if you're just wanting to stay longer than a month,
it's a lot more expensive too.
Right. And you get a small kitchen.
No, but what I think most too is it's the issue that you get with the hotel is the same issue that you get with the Airbnb is you're set on this set time. And imagine you got to go from one room to another room because they're booking it and stuff like that. With this, it kind of leaves it a little bit open-ended.
Yeah.
What about if, because I know this one that we have, I think you put it out for like 6 months.
Yeah.
What if she's out in 2?
So
how does all that work?
That's a great question. So in many cases, we have a clause built in that despite whatever that move out date is, you can give a 30-day notice at any point during
That's
your
what
stay.
I saw, exactly.
Right. So if that would be great news for her, right?
Sure.
If he could just give us a 30-day notice without penalty, and she gets her insurance pays through the 30-day notice. It could be any day of the month too. It doesn't have to be the 1st or the end of the month. It could be the 15th, 20th. It doesn't matter. She pays the 30-day notice. She moves out. We're good. Some cases, depending on the market, it has to be a certain minimum. So, that's kind of where the adjuster goes, hey, we want to start with 2 months just to be on the safe side.
Sure.
So we have it in the agreement, hey, this is a 2-month minimum or this is a 3-month minimum. In order for us to provide this property, we have to have a certain minimum commitment.
Got it.
In Julie's case, we're happy to have her sign a 6-month. If she gets it done earlier, great. It is what it is. 30-day notice, totally fine.
Yeah.
And that obviously varies by market. Tampa, we're a lot more flexible. Some cities, it's no problem. Other times, it might have to be a minimum. But again, that's always planned with the adjuster.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the hottest market? Like, where are you most busy? Or is it just pretty much everywhere?
It's everywhere.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
You always have the occasional, hailstorm or a tornado came through. So you see a pocket of requests that come in
Sure.
for this particular town. Obviously, hurricanes,
Interesting.
earthquakes are its own thing. But
Is that how it really started? You just started to get some random requests and you're just like, let me look into this a little bit more, and you just went head first into it?
Yeah, which is why we're going really headfirst into the public adjuster side.
Yeah.
I mean, I told you the other week, I've just been calling public adjusters. I've been going on the NPAA.
What?
National
NAPIA, the NAPIA?
NAPIA, yeah. We've been going on that directory
Okay.
and just finding people that are licensed in Florida or somewhere in the Southeast, because we're obviously based here.
Yeah.
And just calling and saying, hey, this is the service that we do, and just having that dialogue with them. And they go, oh, wow. And I go, how are you doing it right now? And a lot of them say, well, we're.
What is the typical answer that you get? Like in doing your little market research that you've been doing, like what is the biggest issue you feel that the public adjusters have?
Yeah, they'll say, in fact, the last 2 I spoke with, it was one in Connecticut, one here in Tampa, but they're licensed in 12 states. And it was, we have them find it on their own. Yeah. Or we used to use a broker, or we used to use like an agency or something.
Sure.
Whether it was like a real, again, I didn't ask for names of the agencies, but they charge a commission or a fee, and we can't always agree on the fee, or we can't always agree on the commission, or we can't, it's like always, there's just some tension there in that agency or something. And so with us, the rate's the rate. So there's no, our business is made on the rate that we're offering. It's not on, we charge an extra $500 a month because we're servicing this claim or whatever it might be. So I thought, wow, we're a really good fit for you. And their feedback was, this is really good to know.
Sure.
And, we want to have a relationship with you. So I'm working with those companies, and we would slowly build that out. But
I can introduce you to so many public adjusters.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I say? I told them this, and I obviously told you this the other week too, is like, let's do one, right? It's like you do one, you see how it goes, you see how it's, because the other thing I think the public adjusters struggle with is they move into an Airbnb or some rental they found, and now there's an issue, right? There's the AC is not working and you're in Florida, or hey, we're not getting on with the landlord or something, there's some disconnect as to what the expectations are. Well, guess what? As far as I understand, it's back to being your problem.
Right.
Because now they're like, well, I need to find a new place.
Right.
And the public adjuster or the adjuster just wants to, they want to adjust the claim. They want to manage it, get this thing, wrapped up.
Yeah.
So imagine that is completely off your plate.
Sure.
You give us the claim, and let's say there is an issue mid-stay, right? Something's come up. I mean, things happen, right? People are, things happen. We manage that.
Sure.
We need to get them to another rental. We handle that. We don't ever want it to be back on the adjuster's plate, unless, of course, there was some kind of violation to the agreement, meaning a noise issue or, I don't know, whatever the case might be, some violation of the actual agreement. This should never have to go back onto the adjuster's shoulder.
You know what would be a good target market for you too? Like just independent adjusters and like storm-torn areas.
Yeah.
Not just the homeowners, but the actual CAT adjusters. They're called catastrophe adjusters.
Yeah.
They travel all over the country and they need places to stay.
And so we did a deal in 2022 that bled into
Like you could get a deal with State Farm, Allstate, all these insurance companies.
So when Ian came through, obviously it kind of ravaged the Fort Myers and Sarasota area. It also came through Orlando as well.
Yep.
There was an insurance carrier that had to set up a temporary office in Orlando.
There you go.
They had 40 adjusters, and we set all their housing up. We
That's
got 40
awesome.
units. We got them all
You
set
didn't
up
put
with
them like in
internet.
just like barracks or anything like that?
Yeah.
Just put them, just stuff them somewhere, no?
Yeah, just put them on a campsite.
Yeah.
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 I had been looking for an accountant for years, and I was unable to find anybody that I liked, that I worked with, and was able to do what I needed to be done to my taxes and to my accountant. Jeremy David at Noble Wealth has been a godsend to me, my family, and my company. We have saved so much money in taxes I can't even begin to describe, and he knows what he's doing. You need to call Jeremy at Noble Wealth and get yourself the right accountant, because he's the man who's going to help you save on taxes. Because ultimately, you don't want to be making money, especially if you're self-employed, and having it all go to the IRS. Call Jeremy, call Noble Wealth, and they will help you tremendously with the entire accounting process and your tax situation from A to Z.
No, but they wanted to be in, these, when we do apartments, we don't do any B or C class type apartments. Most of them are going to be gated.
Yeah.
Everyone that lives there, whether they're a temporary resident or a long-term resident, they all have to pass a national sex offender and criminal background check.
Nice.
So you don't have those security issues, vehicle break-ins, noise issues and things like that. So we like to maintain a pretty good standard when it comes to our partner properties. But yeah, 40 people, they all wanted biweekly housekeeping. They didn't want to be in hotels, and we managed all of that. And it was a huge success. It was 7 months long because it was a temporary office and they had to be close to the office. It worked out. So we can do that too, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us about the actual business. Like, how big is your business? You said you've been around for 7 years now.
Yeah, going on 7 years. Yeah.
How many people do you got working in the back end here?
Yeah.
How do you find some of these properties? Like, I want to know more.
Yeah, I always like to say it's an art form.
Yeah.
I mean, the business model itself is what it is. We've created processes. We've obviously brought in employees, and we have a process for just about everything in our business. And that's really the way that you want to run a business. You don't want everything to be a nuanced case, right?
Right.
But the business started with me, and from there it grows into, hey, we want to bring in an operator, we want to bring in, housekeepers, we want to bring in guest services staff, we want to bring in more account managers to help insurance claims and people that are looking for mid-stay housing, midterm housing. And so it grew organically. Right now we have 6 employees. We manage about 100, at any given time we manage about 140 to 180 properties nationwide.
Wow.
And it's funny when you think about how large the country is, it doesn't sound like a lot, but every person is a person with requests, demands, issues, needs. Then you think about their family, then you think about their pets, then you think about their, guests, all that stuff. And so there's a lot to manage. And so the team is mostly heavy on the guest services side, right?
Okay.
Property management, maintenance requests, things of that nature. We always do, doesn't matter what the property is, we always have a cleaner that goes between occupants. And then we have another person after that, a third party, another pair of eyes that comes in and inspects everything. So to make sure that the cleaning quality is up to standard, do the appliances work? Does the AC work? So that when people do move in, it's not like, hey,
More issues, less problems. Yeah.
and it's like, and we obviously try to maintain very good communication with our guests so that when there is an issue that comes up, we can.
That's really good quality control.
Yeah, and it makes everyone's life easier. It's easier for the occupant / guest. It's easier for us because it's not a constant, handling requests and issues and things like that. So you set things up correctly, you can really operate at scale with only about 6 people. We are hiring. We have a new person we're bringing on likely within the next week or two. We've started interviews. So
What position?
It's an operations coordinator
What is that?
role. So that person is responsible, and this person will be more.
Titles always crack me up because there's all these titles.
Well, yeah, I know, and some people are very fixated on.
They are very fixed.
Well,
You have to be careful who you give titles to sometimes and what they're called.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is
The manager title is always a finicky one. You got to be careful with.
Yeah.
Can't throw that around too much.
No, and then there's all those expectations that fall behind that. So, but yeah, no, it's tricky because we're a small business, and in small business, things change, right?
Yeah.
Processes change, responsibilities change, and so I'd like to think that our team is very good at understanding the fluctuating nature of this business and the growth of this business, right? So hey, we've got a new segment that we're servicing. Let's call it, right, this insurance segment. Well, we've got new processes for that. Hey, you're going to be taking this on. Hey, we're going to be hiring a new person to do that. We might split this role up. So it's all kind of in the management of workload.
Do you come up with the processes and stuff first before you make that hire?
Oh yeah. We want to know what their, my wife has a 15-year background in human resources.
No,
so
my God.
She does recruitment. She does,
Does she work with you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're a team.
You didn't mention that last week.
Yeah. And she's like, in the back end handling all the various HR, hey, I need PTO. And,
that's awesome.
Hey, we're doing a review. We do 90-day reviews when everyone starts. We do annual reviews, when their 1 year has hit. She's extremely methodical about all that.
That's fantastic.
Which is great for the employees. You create a good work environment and you treat people well, people want to work.
I agree.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you also, how did you get into this? Like what made you?
It's funny. So I'll go back a few steps.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned the other week that I spent several years in Southeast Asia. So I
was going to get into that part of the conversation.
Yeah, we could talk. Well, we were talking a lot.
That's my favorite part of the conversation, to be honest. But
yeah, I lived in.
Love to travel.
Yeah, and as do I. And so I was actually living there. It wasn't so much traveling as much as it was living there. I had a business there.
We're talking about Thailand.
Thailand, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was an English tutoring program we did, and we worked with a lot of, private individuals, one-on-one tutoring. We did like seminars with companies. There's a lot of English tutoring and teaching in seminar formats to companies, and then of course schools, smaller classes and stuff. And we worked with a lot of native English speakers. So these people we would use them. We would contract with them to go and teach our curriculum to the company, to the individual, to the class, and it worked really well. Anyways, long story short, I came back to the U.S. and I wanted to get into real estate. And so at the time, I had an opportunity in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And so I contacted a property management company. They had a 3-bed, 1-bath in downtown or Old Town San Diego. And I said, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to, the idea here was more like nightly rentals. It was like, hey, we're going to set it up. I'll furnish it. We'll put people in there for Airbnb or VRBO or whatever. And set everything up, spent thousands of dollars on furniture, got it all built out. And then we had a few guests, 2 nights here, 3 nights there. And then I think after the second week, we had a request for 1 night. And it was from a young lady and her friend, so 2 people in a 3-bedroom. And she moved in, and I got a call Sunday morning. It was a Saturday night. And it was, we're going to have to end our lease with you, from the property management company. There was a massive party.
No.
So she was I think UCSD student.
Nice.
She invited all of her friends over. I mean, there was 20 or 30 people. And this is a small little community.
That's hilarious.
In Old Town San Diego,
That's funny.
Just these little like cottages almost.
Yeah.
And they're having a raver.
That's funny.
A rager, at freaking 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Partying,
rager,
whatever. Yeah, and obviously, I think the cops were. It was a whole thing. Anyway, so
that's funny.
I was feeling very down on myself, and I remember driving, back to where I was staying at the time and going where I was renting and going, well, this is terrible. I just spent, thousands of dollars on furniture and had a 12-month lease and was going to do this whole thing, and they, the property management company was okay with it. And I went, what am I going to do here? And I said, well, maybe I can convince them that we'll only do people for a month at a time. So we won't have like back-to-back, nightly rentals and that kind of a thing. So I called the manager back and proposed this idea on Monday. And she said, oh, I'll take it to the owner. Took it to the owner. The owner said, yeah, as long as it's 30 days, we'd be fine with that. And then I started renting the people that were coming to San Diego, that were on military assignments, people that were between homes.
And no more one-nighters.
No more one-nighters. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. It doesn't seem to have problems getting people that are in this sort of 1 month, 2 month, 3 month time frame.
Right.
Anyway, I ended up turning that lease over to somebody who stayed for 6 months. They were transitioning to San Diego. They bought out the furniture from me. So it all worked out. But I learned something there. So that when I eventually did move to the Tampa Bay area, that's kind of where that idea got going with, well, let's do one. We set up one in Valrico, actually, with a private owner.
Yeah.
Set up some furniture. Let's test this market out and see kind of what we get. And then that grew into apartments, and then it kind of all grew from there. So where there is pain, there are lessons that can be learned. And from those lessons, you hope to build something great.
It's always tough to try to find a dependable and, quite frankly, good appraiser for your claim. Also, you're always looking to try to build your umpire list to make sure you have the right people on there. So whether you're an attorney or a public adjuster, you're going to need Nationwide Appraisal Group. Call Xander at NWA because, quite frankly, great guy, really honest, super experienced, and has a great reputation in the industry. So if you're looking for somebody to put on your appraisal list as well as somebody on your umpire list, you're going to want to call Xander at Nationwide Appraisal Group so that he could be the next guy on your appraisal to get that top dollar that you're looking for on your insurance claim. Go ahead and call them.
So how does it work? You don't have to divulge too much information. How are you able to find so many properties so quickly at a moment's notice?
Yeah, we're very transparent about that. So, I always tell people that we have access to over 500,000, call them units or call them, rentals.
So you have 135 or so active, but you could get anything.
Correct. Yeah. We have about 100 and, at any given time, call it 120 to 160, that are rolling. Because obviously people are moving in, they're moving out. We're not working with that property, then we're working with it again. So we're very agile in that way. But the question of how do we get them? So we have partnerships with dozens and dozens of very large national mid to luxury apartment communities. So a lot of these property managers that own and operate these large, your large kind of gated, nicer communities, they're in every state basically. We can just about work with all of them because of the of corporate contracts that we have with them. So if somebody
with the property managers,
with those property managers, with those communities, so we could get a request for Hot Springs, Arkansas, and we know who we can contact, communities we can contact in those areas that have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments, and we can set up leases, get furniture there, and get people in there for the duration of their
Don't you have to make a commitment to them to be like, hey, we're going to keep this full, or they can?
No, I mean we can do lease terms depending on the state, depending on the community as well. We can do lease terms as short as 3 months, as short as 6 months, 7 months. It all kind of depends.
It has to be communities though, right? Because if I own a house. Can I just go to you, Tyler? Look, I want to be able to offer my house.
Yes.
In case something happens. Can I do that?
Yes, you can. And that's actually kind of the other part of their business, which is single family homes and townhomes, because a lot of claims are, hey, I got a family of 4 with pets.
Sure.
And they want to be in the 3 bed, and the pets, 2 of them are dogs. We have a fenced in yard. And as you know, in the insurance world, you have to be able to offer something like, kind, and quality.
Right.
So you can't tell a family of 4 with 3 pets, hey, we're going to put you in a 2-bedroom apartment. So the dance there is we got to get them into a home, a single family home. Okay. Well, we have a website or a page on our website called readystays.com/partners.
Oh.
Okay. So if anybody's watching and you own property, by all means, go to that page. And it spells out for you our entire program we do in working with private owners.
Interesting.
Or small property managers. And we walk you through how we pay, what our terms are, how we screen our tenants or our guests before they move into your property, what our process is. Prior to moving in, we do monthly housekeeping if there are pets to make sure your property is maintained.
But what do you do if you can't keep it full?
So
Because it is different, right? Because this is not like a year thing.
Exactly. So I remember I think last week you said, hey, I got a condo in, South Florida?
In Miami.
Yeah. And, can I work with you? And I said, absolutely. And so what we do is when we so everything is on a per request or per claim basis.
Sure.
We're not a traditional property management company in that we take on your property for a year in South Florida, in Miami, and just sort of keep it full all the time.
Right.
We're doing it on a per claim basis. So we might have you listed in our database of, hey, these are owners or managers in Miami that have worked with us in the past or have said that they'll work with us. And then we go and we call you, we email you, we say, hey, Vince.
We've got this opportunity.
Yeah, we got a family of 2.
Is it available?
If
not,
we move on.
It is what it is.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll say, yeah, well, or no, I got a guy moving out at the end of May. But this place happens to be 5-minute drive from their damaged residence. Well, we can work with them on that. Hey, are you willing to wait 2 weeks in the hotel? Some people will say, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
Right? And if not, you've got a long-term tenant, so be it. And we'll kind of continue down our list. So the business is about relationships.
Sure. Isn't all business about relationships?
I guess that's true.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, it's, in maintaining relationships, we want to maintain very good partnerships with
Sure.
our owners. And, again, have there been issues in the past? Of course. Are there outlying cases in the past? Of course. Someone doesn't maintain a property, a tenant doesn't maintain a property, you manage all of that. But on the whole, it's a very workable system, and owners and managers are happy to work with us.
Where do you see this going in regards to the insurance services here and providing what you're providing for homeowners and potentially the insurance company adjusters, stuff like that?
Yeah. I think I mentioned this earlier. I just see opportunities dripping off the walls. I think that when you find a good market fit, when you find it where, you're the right resource, the right solution with the criteria, with what both the insurance carrier or adjuster and the family are needing, it's a beautiful marriage. And we're really, in the last year, we're really seeing that's the case. And so I think for us, it's to continue to grow at the scale we've been growing.
Yeah.
We are a national company. Yes, we're owned and operated out of Tampa. We have a lot of our what we call core inventory here, but we operate in
but you have access to all these different properties, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, if somebody can give us the opportunity, an adjuster or a family can give us the opportunity, and we do a good job, then keep coming back to us.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be claims.
Yeah.
There's always going to be, fires, storms.
I mean, that's going to be,
All of that.
that's going to be a big one for you.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, we've gotten, like I said.
Did you get any requests from the, was it Oklahoma? I think it was that they
haven't seen anything yet. Haven't seen anything
Houston
yet.
Was it Houston also that just got flooded pretty bad as well, I think?
I don't know. Yeah, perhaps. But I haven't seen anything yet. But again, that's about building relationships.
Sure.
So if there's adjusters in that area and they know that Ready Stays is a resource.
Yeah.
Hey, I got 15 families. I mean, we can operate that quickly. We can move people into properties that quickly.
Well, I speak from experience now. We had a loss. When did I sign that claim? What is today's Wednesday? Today's Thursday.
Yes. Yeah.
I signed that sucker on Monday.
Yeah. You called me Monday. I think it was Monday morning. You said it.
Signed it on Monday, and she's pretty much booked as of yesterday.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah. I mean, she looked at it. I had a nice call with her yesterday. Sent her the information. I had a nice call with her yesterday. I said, what did you think of the? Oh, it's perfect. And then, she has a couple of questions about the policy, which relates to, what you're going to confirm with the adjuster. But it's she's like, yeah, I mean, otherwise it's 15 minutes to my house, 15 minutes to my church, it's 15 minutes to my work.
Is there a process that you would like? Is there like a phone number? Is there a way that you would like people to contact you if and when they need?
Yes. So you can email ALE.
Ooh, fancy. ReadyStays.com?
ReadyStays.com. Ready Stays with an S. Not Ready Stay. It's Ready Stays with an S.
Okay.
And I only say that because every now and then they go, oh, yeah, Tyler from Ready Stay.
No.
And I say, well, if it was only one stay, we'd be out of business.
Yeah.
It's Ready Stays. Yeah, with an S. And then, ALE, additional living expenses, ALE at ReadyStays.com. Or, and this page has just gone up this week, in anticipation for this wonderful podcast, ReadyStays.com/ALE, which is intended for insurance adjusters. Yeah. So there's a form at the end of that page that says, what is your information? What is the occupant or the insured's information? And then, if you have any information on policy limits, the damaged residence address, then we can kind of go to town and start, we'll contact them and we'll get that process started, get the approval with the adjuster and kind of go through that whole thing. ReadyStays.com/ALE.
I like it.
And that's it. All we need is, it's a quick form, pop it in there, and our team will take care of the rest.
And your team acts fast.
Yeah, fast.
Please tell your team that I was very impressed at how fast everything just worked out. And it's a touchy situation. It's a touchy, she's literally like out of a house. What do? I got to crash at my friend's house. And that's where she was. She's been crashing at her friend's house. She needs a place to stay.
Yeah. Yeah, and going back to your question of where do we see it going? I mean, I see no reason why we can't, that number can't go from 150 to 200, 300. There's always going to be claims. There's always going to be families in need, and if we're the right
that number can go from 150 to 1,000 with one storm.
Yeah.
Yeah. People just can't live in their house.
Yeah, and I appreciate the introduction.
Yeah.
I appreciate working with you. It's interesting how I've learned in just the conversations that we've had together, I've learned a lot about the adjuster side of of that experience, right?
Well, the public adjuster side,
And
or
then the
just in
public
general?
adjuster side, right? So, and kind of that whole dance that has to go back and forth. And I watched a few of your YouTube videos, and I'm very interested in it. I don't know. I think
It's an interesting. It's just, yeah. I mean, all in all, just the insurance industry has always been very interesting to me as well. It's like everybody needs it. Everybody's got it.
Yeah.
You got to use it. You don't have a choice. Sometimes, sometimes you don't want to use it. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's like almost a necessary evil sometimes. You know?
Right.
Health insurance, I heard, is the same way about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I personally am very passionate. I know our team is very passionate. We are, like I said, we're hiring with that growth in mind to continue down this particular vertical or with this market. So, we're all in.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, I appreciate you coming by.
Yes, sir.
Again, I appreciate you being on the show.
Appreciate the invite.
Thank you for taking care of my clients so quickly. Honestly, for anybody and everybody in this industry, all public adjusters, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer to have you on speed dial. But we'll see what we can do to actually put your information on our website. We can send out emails and stuff like that for that website so that people can go in as soon as they need your services. Just boom, right there. They can go and they can get it. So.
Let's do it.
Cool. Tyler,
Vince.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right.